You know it's going to be a good day when you wake up and you got accurate quotes. If you're flying, that's probably a little bit better news. If you have a medical procedure due today, well, hopefully you'll get through that. But we'll talk about the fallout from the CrowdStrike outage. Politics playing a role in the market. It's going to be hard to ignore that. Not much earnings. We'll talk about Verizon trading in the red. Jeremy Schwartz coming on at 8:35 to cover everything: politics, markets, international markets. It's Monday on Pre-Market Prep, and we are ready to get started. Fire up!
Welcome to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, in the words of Ben Lichtenstein, I am riled up, ready to go, ready to rant on this Monday morning. Nice rebound in the S&P 500 futures, up 34 handles, 55.8750. Trying to work our way back into the 5,600 handle. The buck down 12 cents at 103.98. TLT, not bad, up 43 cents, 93.35. Crude, way under 80. Wow, when did that happen? Down 43 cents at 78.20. Gold flat here, right around 2,400. Silver, that's taking a hit. That's down a quarter, 29.04. Bitcoin futures, they're still holding that major rally up 140 bucks. It's 67,620. Let's bring in Triple D, AB simultaneously here. Three of us back together once again on this Monday morning. I was back on Friday, but how'd you guys do last week? Did you guys behave last week?
Yeah, I think
I'd
so.
say so. I'd say we had a,
so.
Yeah.
We weren't too misbehaved. We tried. We did good. We missed you though, Joel. We always miss you when you're away. The one problem is the market misbehaves when Joel goes away. We always know Joel indicated whenever Joel goes away, the market sells off. So next time you go away, we're shorting the market the day you go away because it was an ugly week for the markets. And again, I'm going to blame you for this, Joel. It's Joel's fault. Joel's fault the market went down. He can't go away anymore. Not allowed to go away anymore.
I hope I get credit when the market goes up, but let's start with Friday. Friday after hours, Dennis. I know you're one of the people that keeps Wall Street going until 8 a.m. and you saw some interesting price action in good old Bank America. I'll let you walk through it, give your early thoughts, and then we could cover the price action.
So here's a segment for the regulators too. But AB, bring this up, BAC, bring up the news for us here. Because everybody probably, maybe some people don't know the news on this. So bring it up here. We've had a major seller come into this market here in BAC. On Friday night, it was disclosed. So let us know the time and what happened.
So Friday night, it was disclosed that Berkshire Hathaway sold around 34 million shares of Bank of America, which is around a $1.5 billion stake. After the sale, here's the thing. 34 million shares sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but at the end of the day, Berkshire still owns around 100 million shares of Bank of America. So trimmed the stake by about, 25 to 30%. Significant trimming of that stake, but it's not like, Berkshire completely bombed out of the Bank of America position, still kept a decent amount of it. But again, 34 million shares is going to be enough to drive that stock lower. And Berkshire began buying Bank of America in 2011, so has held it for now at this point more than 13 years. So you had, but Dennis, your point was you started seeing some big sellers coming in before these filings were released. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. So, and we can speculate on that in a second. So the facts are, can you hear me? The facts are 8:33. The filing hit 8:33 p.m. Friday night. So everybody in the whole world then knows, okay, Warren Buffett sold Bank of America. That's going to be market impactful. And Bank of America actually bounced. It was actually in Robinhood last night as low as 41.60. Wow. Robinhood often overshoots. That's probably an overshoot. 42 and change is where it was. I saw a seller on Friday night, which was like on Bank of America, and the seller was relentless. 42.90s they're offering, then they're coming down with an iceberg order. And what an iceberg order is, they show 100 shares, but they don't move. Then they came down to 42.80, and they're not moving. And people are lifting it because, you're looking around, there's no news. It's a Friday night. It's rare to have analyst ratings on a Friday night. There's nothing, no filings at this time. No news. 42.80, 42.80 will not stop. Will not stop. Then, it comes down to 42.70 iceberg. Hundreds of thousands of shares being lifted 42.70 because everybody's like, wow, must just be somebody that wants out. People are buying it. 42.70, 42.70, going. Will not move for an hour. Sit on the offer for an hour. Go down to 42.60. The iceberg order comes down 100 shares, and sitting there forever. So this, Joel, and you would have the volumes on TradeStation there. Like, we're talking between 4 and 6 o'clock. I'm estimating like it was hundreds of thousands of shares that this person, whoever this was, sold. So I don't know, like, you can see volumes itself and you can add them all up. And, there may be some other volumes in there too. But this iceberg order seller was relentless. And then we see the filing at 8:35 p.m., 4 hours after this action. You just scratch your head and you're like, was it a coincidence? Was it just somebody that had to come in after hours and sell? Because I've not seen a seller like that in Bank of America on no news in a very long time, maybe ever. Like I was saying, and there was a couple other people messaging me, what's going on at Bank of America? I was like, I don't know, as an iceberg seller, I don't have any news on it, but they just are relentlessly on the offer. And then we get the filing at 8:35, and you're like putting it, you're putting it all together, and you're like, did this person know something? Obviously, we don't know. The person knows something. Regulators can investigate and look to see if they knew something, but it's interesting that it was Berkshire Hathaway too. Joel says maybe it was Warren selling after hours. I mean, maybe it was. I don't think Warren would be an after hours seller, but maybe he was. We all we know is the filing shows that he was selling, the previous 3 days. So, we don't know who the seller was, but whoever that seller was a big seller, and whoever that seller was very right to be selling, it turns out, because the stock obviously went down significantly after that.
Couple things I want to point out. Number one, I mean, the stock is down 50 cents in a very strong tape this morning. So the number one, that's interesting of itself. If the market had taken out the lows from Friday. The other thing I want to ask you, Dennis, and this is for our listening audience, and I think I saw this on Twitter too. I mean, how many stocks do you have up after hours that you're looking on your main quotes? I mean, you're probably looking at what, 30, 40, couple hundred stocks. Yeah. So how does Bank America, which is a super thick stock, right, trades a lot? I mean, Friday after hours, was it like, did you have a filter, or were you just looking at?
Yeah, well, I have scanners, but there's not a lot of action on a Friday night, Joel, at 4:30. Okay. So, and you're seeing volume just fly off Bank America, and you're like, this looks like news. I mean, it was trading down, and it looks like, did somebody have a late downgrade on it? I'm checking around. I'm asking around, is there news on this thing? Nobody has anything. And then the news hits the SEC filings at 8:35, and you're like, what a coincidence. Like, that's all I'll say. I have no knowledge of who the seller was. It could have been completely coincidence. But it's interesting, to say the least, that I see this whole massive sell. And maybe it was Warren. Maybe Warren's selling after hours now, and he's just like, this is the better way to execute trades. I don't think if I was an institution, I'd be coming in and doing it all after hours, but who knows? So we'll just leave it at that. It's just interesting, to say the least, that, the most action that I saw really on Friday night was in Bank America, which is not a stock that gets a lot of after hours action. They have a few trades, but it's not usually one that's on my radar. But there was some volume in Bank America, and you guys, volume charts, go check the volume between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock.
I pulled it up. Do you think, we'll see if we can move on after this, but does anybody remember, I know you will, Dennis, when Warren came up with the idea to buy Bank America?
No,
when he took
he's been in it for a while, though.
Yeah, does
AB can probably go hunt down when he actually
he was in a particular place drinking a Coca-Cola. Yeah, he was at a particular place drinking a Coca-Cola.
Oh gosh, that was
Yes.
Goldman, wasn't it? I think it was Goldman
Was it
Sachs when he
Goldman
took
or
that
was it
position.
Bank
I think
America?
so. No, it
It
was
was
Goldman, and that was during the financial crisis, and he was sitting back taking a bath, and then he thought about maybe I should do some preferred stocks in Goldman Sachs, and because they needed money, and he went and offered, and obviously, did this deal with GS, and that kind of turned the financial crisis. Like you were a year into the financial crisis. We needed a vote of confidence, and he got the big Warren vote of confidence where they sold Warren a whole bunch of preferred stock. Might have been in Bank America too. I'm pretty sure it was in Goldman though. I'm pretty sure it was in Goldman.
Okay. All right. I don't know if he
Anyways,
was
I
at
just
the
like
back
to
then.
show this stuff. This is like we're learning here about the markets, and we're not accusing anyone. We're just saying it was interesting trading action on Friday night. And obviously this is news moving, so we wanted to cover Bank of America anyways, because when Warren starts selling 25% of his position, the media is going to take note.
It is 25%. It's up because that was
what AB was saying, about 25% if he was estimating it right.
Oh, yeah, that is
a significant
interesting.
sale. Not like he just
around
dumped like 1% like an Apple, like you dump 1 or 2%. No, he dumped like quite a bit here.
Yep. All right. Well, that was, one of the big headlines from Friday. I was out on Friday, but I did still follow along with some of the market moving news. And the other big headline from Friday was, of course, this outage from CrowdStrike, which affected a bunch of different industries. And so essentially what happened was CrowdStrike tried to deploy a new software update. That did not go well. Something went wrong and caused, major outages across the board, flights getting canceled, payment, operating systems down, you name it. There were a lot of tech issues on Friday, and we're seeing some follow through that with from this morning in the market. CrowdStrike stock trading down another $13.50, around 4.5%. And its competitors, other cybersecurity companies, look at SentinelOne up about 4.5% this morning. So, we got movement in the cybersecurity space. And if you're, long a cybersecurity company, the last thing you want to hear is that without even a hack or anything, the company itself comes in and just shoots itself in the foot and causes all of these problems on its own with a faulty software update.
And Musk apparently is dumping CrowdStrike now too. You said you heard, Joel? Is that what he said on the weekend?
He
said you heard something about that.
He deleted it from their systems, is what.
So he's not using CrowdStrike.
Yeah,
what you read.
Okay,
we don't have confirmation on that, but that's what Joel heard.
I don't think
over
I
the
jumped
weekend.
that. Yeah, I think
you got to watch. Sometimes Joel dreams stuff up, but
no,
confused,
especially over a long
dreams
weekend.
And reality.
Boy, oh boy. I mean, that affected so many things, and I think it kind of got a pass in the morning. But then I think that really contributed to the sell-off in the market. I mean, you're fighting the tape right here now, right? You got bad news, you got the catalyst, you got the bad news. I'm looking at this 280 area, and I would say, man, if this gets down, there's a couple lows under 280. That's 270, 250. I think right now for today, my focus would be the pair of lows right around 281. That's another $10. So, if you want to throw a low ball bid out there, nibble, see if you can get it down another $10. But the news is turned, and it's not good. So at least wait for it to stabilize or stop going down. That's not the price action so far today, and I think some analysts weighed in on it too, didn't they, Aaron?
Let's see. Let's pull up in Benzinga Pro CrowdStrike, see what the different analysts were doing here. We did have.
There was a downgrade from, I think it was Bank of Nova Scotia in Canada. Let me go look. Grabbing it. Yeah, Scotiabank. But you had had multiple downgrades here, folks. BTIG downgrading CrowdStrike, Scotiabank downgrading CrowdStrike. All your analysts who are all lemmings here. RBC lowers the price target. Wells Fargo lowers the price target. Piper Sandler lowers the price target. Guggenheim also downgrading CrowdStrike. So they got 3 downgrades and 3 lower price targets. This is analysts chasing price. We've talked about this on the show for years. Price goes down. They're like, oh, I look like crap right now. I better downgrade or I better, lower my price target. And that's what we're seeing here. So some significant downgrades here and obviously some significant lower prices as well. That's piling on. This is why it's difficult. Like, people want to come in on the first day after bad news and just buy the dip. They want to say, oh, it's going to bounce right back. I know it's going to bounce right back. This great company. We always say, sit back, wait a few days for the full fallout. Because what you have now is another 4.5% fall or another 13-point fall because of all the analysts that are chasing it. So almost predictable when you get a news, that's breaking. It takes, the analysts, it's Friday morning, they're going to get their notes and stuff. Well, we'll get it out Monday. So almost predictable that a lot of this would have happened. Obviously, CrowdStrike, people who are buying the dip on Friday were rewarded early, but not now. They're being unrewarded for their actions. And the stock's back down near the lows from Friday and perilously close, Joel, to Friday's low.
That's right. 290.10, 290.52 is where it's currently trading. And also, just like a lot of day traders, it didn't work out. I bought it at 305 and, it's flat here at 305. I think the market's going to bounce on Monday. I'm going to take it home overnight. And then now the market's up. Well, you got that part right. But CrowdStrike's down. So we'll see. You have an identifiable level here at right at yesterday's low. Let's see if it's taken out. It was much lower in the pre-market on Friday. That's correct. Bottom of yesterday's range right here, right now. Sure, a lot of people would love to get out at that market, 304.96. But news flow has turned on CrowdStrike from a potential breakout just earlier in the month.
Yeah.
Now you're
ugly.
100 points away. That's an ugly looking chart right there.
They're yelling at us, AB. They want to talk politics here, and I think
they want to talk politics.
I know. We stayed away from the politics, and now they want to talk politics all of a sudden. But the title of the show was Fallout from the Dropout, and we obviously are talking about Biden dropping out here over the weekend. Give us all the details here, AB, and we'll try to break down the trading action because it's been very interesting here.
Yeah, so this was an interesting story to follow because a lot of the media last week was essentially reporting that Biden dropping out was like a done deal before it actually happened. And then you had some people in his camp come out and say, no, that's not true. He's going to run. And it was weird because to me, it looked like, okay, this would be like a time where if they did want to drop out, they already got people thinking it's going to happen, whatever. And they came back and refuted that claim. But then a couple days later, of course, yesterday on Sunday, it was officially announced that Biden would not run for re-election and came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, his vice president, to be the next president. And you had some different, I was watching the prediction markets as this was happening, and it's still, from everything you can find, still has Trump as the presumptive, president in the 2024 election, the heavy favorite.
Heavy? Would you call 60-40 a heavy favorite?
Well, that's what the implied odds are. If you look at essentially
pretty heavy favorite when you're looking at if you had the history of this, and obviously we haven't had traded elections, but I would imagine a lot of the races are quite a bit closer than this. Yeah, this is not close right now.
So
it may close, but right now it's not close.
Well, if you look at what the odds were on betting websites, and I can actually share my screen here. So before Biden dropped out on Bovada, which is an online book essentially, you had Trump at minus 300 and Biden at plus 350, plus 400. Some books had Biden as much as plus 450. Now Kamala Harris is plus 190. So the odds have gotten a lot more even since he dropped out. And, maybe as we get closer to the election, that 60-40 split that you're seeing on some prediction markets starts to even out a little bit. But either way, it didn't shoot up Kamala's chances like it was completely 50-50 even, but certainly started helping move in that direction. And the market this morning, I think the biggest thing is we know how much the market doesn't like uncertainty. And now and for a while, there was all this question for the last 2 weeks, for the last 3 weeks, really since the debate, there was a lot up in the air about if Biden would stay in the race. If he does stay in the race, how bad is it going to be? Is it going to be a clean sweep, this and that? Now we have the certainty that, okay, it's going to be Kamala. Well, not for certain, but pretty sure it's going to be Kamala. We know for certain Biden isn't running. So that takes out this whole thing about, okay, well, we have a president that, we don't know really how well he's doing this or that. So I think that's really what it's about this morning. The fact that the overall market is trading higher on this news is just that it takes some uncertainty out of the market.
And what's interesting is that DJT, and it's the direct, it's fun because we can look at DJT and we can see what, directly odds, are, just like looking at this stock. And it was trading up significantly last night on Robinhood. It was up at 37.5. I actually predicted Sunday morning, like after this, or Sunday afternoon after, obviously Biden had dropped out. I was like, I don't think this is. Somebody was saying, "Oh, DJT is going to moon," on. I was like, I don't think DJT is going to rally on this. I'm like, it doesn't help Trump, that like he was going to beat Biden, and everybody knew it. That's why they had to get Biden out of there. So now all of a sudden you've got somebody that can actually compete here. So I was like, I don't see how this is good for DJT. But anyways, Robinhood didn't care. Last night they're buying this up over 37 relentlessly here. It's still trading slightly in the green, but has leaked it all away. So my initial thoughts were, this isn't great for Trump because, he was a slam dunk to beat Biden, but he's not a slam dunk to beat Harris. I think he does beat Harris. I don't think she's going to be able to beat him, but we don't know who we don't know who is going to be on the ticket with her either. So that could help as well. So there's a little bit of uncertainty for the Trump campaign here at this moment anyways.
I just have to say, overall, not giving a political perspective on things. I mean, this is history. I mean, this is going to go down in the books. I mean, since Lyndon B. Johnson, resigned, he did that in March at 68 because of the Vietnam War. They put in Hubert Humphrey. He ended up losing. I just say that overall, what's going on is it's raising political awareness in America. People are paying attention to politics, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. It is in the focus, and that's what we need. We need people, people just not caring. There were so many people. And the other thing, too, with the 60-40, there is such an undecided camp out there that if you put the 8, 9, 10% that's undecided here, then you're looking at almost scratch. So it's very interesting. It's raised the level of awareness in America, and I am happy for that. And I don't know what the outcomes are going to be, but people are paying attention to politics, and they're expressing their views, and that's good.
So if you want to know the direct Trump stocks, like in you're trading this kind of stuff, it's DJT. There's RUM, which we've talked about these before too, AB and PHUN. But then you start getting into what's a Trump stock and what's not a Trump stock. And this is important information to know, because as you see the polls, after a debate, as we get more information in who's winning, who's losing, these stocks are going to move. Don't kid yourself. Tesla's up $1 or $3.50 here today, simply because it's got DJT up and it's a Trump stock, and also what Trump said on the weekend is affecting it. So he was in Grand Rapids, right, Joel? Was it Grand Rapids?
Yeah, Emily was there too. Emily was covering it in the second row. Yeah. Yep. If you look on Bloomberg.
And I retweeted over the weekend, this is what he said, and he had a 3-minute talk on Elon Musk and said how much he loves Elon Musk. I mean, it doesn't hurt your company when the potential next president says he loves your company. And he said, we can't stand in the way of smart people. And Elon Musk is one of the smartest people I know. So obviously Tesla is now completely linked to Trump. So, especially after, on X, Trump's been saying some stuff about the Dems, been saying some stuff about Harris. He's been saying some stuff. So, I mean, he's taken a complete side with Trump here now. So we now can clearly say that Tesla is a Trump stock. There's going to be separation. Is this a Trump stock? Is this a Harris stock? Obviously, clean energy is going to be Harris. Dirty energy is going to be more Trump. But, you'd think Tesla's clean energy, but it's not. It's going to be on the side of Trump because of what Musk has done. He's trying to warm up to the future president if Trump wins. So, I mean, other stocks, you think about it, what's happened with solar. Keep an eye on that, obviously. Tan's having a pretty good day, probably because, Harris has a better chance than Biden. So it's an interesting market here right now. And politics, people are saying, well, what's politics have to do with the market? Everything right now. Everything. Yep. There's going to be nothing that moves stocks more in the next 4 to 5 months than the political situation. So having your stocks drawn, like keep writing lists. And as we figure it out, we can clearly say solar stocks are going to be with Harris. We can clearly say now Tesla is going to be with Trump. And, we know DJT and we know those ones. So, and message me and, write lists. You guys got other Trump stocks, you got Harris stocks. Let us know. We'll come up with at Benzinga with lists on both sides because it's important information to know because there's trading opportunities all over the place as we get more information on after the debate. After something else happens, and who knows, somebody putting them out.
Choosing
the VP, who's the VP going to be? So important.
Yeah, it's up in the air. They're talking, I mean, a lot of different, but the other thing too is when the Democrats bring in Taylor Swift. I mean, that could be a big bump there.
Yeah, you got Elon on the right. You got Elon on the right.
I guess you guys didn't get that joke there. I stole that from my buddy Jim. But
if she put Taylor Swift on the ticket, they'll beat Trump. The Dems, I'll say right now, if Taylor Swift goes on the ticket with Harris, Trump has no chance. The Swifties out there are just crazy. There's so many Swifties. Both of my kids are Swifties. They don't have votes, but both of my kids, there's Taylor Swift rules the world.
Okay.
I believe that. I firmly believe that.
I know. No. Well, at least maybe she'll sing the national anthem at the convention. I mean, you got the convention coming up in a month, another bump. I mean, but just the way things have been going. I mean, and someone made this comment in the chat earlier. You're just sitting there waiting for like what the hell is going to happen next, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible, the assassination attempt, and then you have this. I mean, it just seems like, I mean, you just can't. You expect the unexpected. That's what I will have to say. Is so much for quiet summer markets during an election year because it's going to be hardly anything like that. But yeah, we'll come up with those lists of stocks. We'll follow them, and shit's going to be a real interesting election. I just see CrowdStrike here, folks, just slipping below Friday's low here. So
that's not good news.
Yeah, no love for CrowdStrike.
280 was the low back in April. So that's the next logical bounce point for me. I think you could see it down at 280. Maybe it bounces there. But again, if you're so happy, you want to own CrowdStrike, you think it's best to breed, you want to be in there. I think you want to wait until you start seeing, like, let's quote Brian Shannon here again. We had him on last week. I mean, or a week and a half ago. Buy the strength after the dip. Don't buy the initial dip. And I think that's where, we should be. And don't buy on day one, man, because those analysts come in and they nail you.
They do. They certainly do. What? Go ahead, AB. Take us away.
Oh, I was just going to bring us to next thing on our list, and that is we got some news over in China. China cutting some interest rates, giving a lift to some of the stocks over there this morning. You see Alibaba, you see JD trading higher this morning on this news. And, for anyone who's been bag holding these Chinese stocks, you basically take like any dips, and it's I have like PTSD from it now, where I'm like, okay, great, Baba's up 2% this morning, but I know it's going back down, right?
Oh, I know.
And so the China's cutting interest rates, and this is where we talk about how not all interest rate cuts are created equal. It's not like, oh, things are going real well and inflation's falling, so we can cut rates and start trying to boost the economy a little bit. It's like things are not going well. There's this, looming real estate potential crisis over in China, slowing economy, all this stuff. So they had a big, basically meeting a couple of weeks ago that was in hopes to try to boost the market and the economy. Didn't really work. So now they're coming in with some interest rate cuts here this morning, or at least we're getting the news this morning. So again, you're seeing these stocks perk up a little bit, but I don't know if it's actually going to result in any sustained bull rally in them.
That's the problem. It's like they get a rally for a day or two, sometimes even a week or two, and then they just, when you look at them a month later, they're back down at the lows. And I've learned this the hard way. I was out of China forever. For years, I was like, no China, no China, no China. Sold my Alibaba back at $240, and everybody said, you just sold the low, Denny. It's at 75. But I rebought a month and a half ago at 80. And I'm like, I'm somewhat just thinking about taking the loss, a 3-point loss, just to be out, because AB's point, these things just go right back down. But then you look, and somebody was tweeting on the weekend, they're like, price to book. on Alibaba is almost
Oh.
1. And they're like, that is almost unheard of for a tech stock. You get price to book on a bank of 1, but for a tech stock that has grown earnings and revenue as much as Alibaba has, to be a price to book, this is again, and Kramer said it, I agree with him, this is probably the cheapest tech stock in the world. But I don't know what's going to turn the story around. It just keeps getting cheaper. It's probably the cheapest tech stock in the world at 100, and it's 80. I'm like, and then, you got the issue of like, if you have political uncertainty, bring politics back into it over here in America, does Xi start thinking more about the Taiwan assets? Because the day that happens, all these stocks implode. So, I mean, it's a tricky trade to say the least. Baidu, I'm long from a lot higher. It has been an epic disaster. Actually, a week and a half ago, it almost got back up to scratch, but I'm in it from like 104, 105 or something, 91. It's been terrible as well. So the two China stocks that I have both been just utter junk.
You need a sustain, like this is one move by China, right? You need it's like a couple other moves. Like this is one thing. When they took this puppy down back, I can remember in 21, Baba was up over 340, 330, and they came out. I could put the Baba chart up here. No, that just over 300 in this red bar. Man, they came out and said we are cracking down and we are kicking butt, and just the news flow just continued to be negative, 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 negative. And now, here you are on the chart. You have one positive, one thing that they did, cutting rates. I have no idea. I mean, I know about as much as about Chinese economics as I do, I don't know, Italian economics. So what one interest rate cut's going to do, I have absolutely no idea. But it's the news flow, and let's see if
Helping
this
the
is
stocks for a day.
it's helping for a day. I can't guarantee
Can
any
it
more than that.
Can it be a sustained rally to AB's point, or do we look at these things next week and like, well, there was another selling opportunity? These are just the most heavy downtrends I've ever seen and the most hated stocks I've ever seen. And maybe because the market is just, saying eventually Xi's going in. But I know that other people are, Xi goes in, Nvidia's not going to be, at $123 a share. If Xi goes in, Apple's not going to be up at 130. So there's a point there too. I mean, if Xi goes in, the whole world changes overnight. So I don't know if he's ever going in because, it's the repercussions there. So I don't think it's imminent by any means.
Yeah. Oh, when you said Chi, I thought you said she, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know Harris was going to knock. Yeah, I'm going to knock those tech stocks down. But all right, guess time.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring our guest on of the day. Today, we've got Jeremy Schwartz, the Chief Investment Officer from WisdomTree, set to join us. We love bringing Jeremy on, getting his outlooks on the market. He's been patiently waiting in the background the past few minutes. So without further ado, let's give Jeremy that very special pre-market prep welcome and catch up when we get back. Welcome to Benzinga's pre-market prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, wrong button there, AB, but we have Jeremy Schwartz on, CIO at WisdomTree, joining us on an interesting Monday here. So let's just, we tried to dance around the political issue. You have a lot of different factors. I know you're very diligent about the markets and your indicators and everything. And you had this kind of political news come out over the weekend, whether anticipated or not. Do you just like throw all that stuff out the window, or do you say, okay, I'm sticking to my models. This is my bait. This is my scenario. How do you do it? How do you approach such a big political upheaval in the markets?
Well, there's how we manage our funds. Most of our ETFs are very rules-based and disciplined, and they have a regular rebalancing program. And so, when we rebalance back to dividends or earnings, as we do across many of our indexes, those follow a particular schedule, and those are not going to take into effect politics. But when we're talking about market sentiment and what's shifting and where to focus on in the market, you do have to factor in a lot of this stuff. I think we could talk a little bit about the China that you guys were just talking about. I think that's one of the big topics we think about in terms of the international markets. I've been on that discussion with you guys in the past saying, hey, I tend to prefer ex-China. I like Japan. I like India. I think they're at the center point of the rotation away from China. I think one of the big topics will be, will the policies, if Trump is, the president, there's some interesting discussion about from his recent speech. My friend Marco Papich, who's now at BCA Research, he was at Clock Tower Group before, he wrote a very interesting thread saying people are not sort of focusing on some of the Trump speech on China, that, hey, the narrative is that he's going to be very, very tough on China, and that he will be, now some of the politics, he started the tariffs and then Biden continued a lot of the tariffs, but Marco pointed out that Trump's sort of a mercantilist in that he's a very business-oriented deal type of guy. And it's possible that actually you come to deals, that they offer him a deal and they start building EV factories in Ohio and he accepts that deal. And so that would be kind of very interesting, because I've been negative on China, thinking that the geopolitical tensions are here. They're going to stay with us for some time. And if that tone shifts, that you actually do come to some deals, that could be one of those positive surprises that you need to see to get China actually back in focus.
Yeah, because you don't think, I'm agreeing with you here, Jeremy, you don't naturally think of Trump, as going to help the Chinese situation, but the deal perspective, and he does, willing to do deals. So it's a great point. I mean, so it's not just a slam dunk that China's going to get hammered if Trump gets in.
Right. I think I'm going to be following that story as probably one of my biggest geopolitical stories of, we've been benefiting in Japan. I think, Japan, our Japan funds, our top performing fund, up 30% this year after huge moves last year. India is benefiting in the rotation away from China. I think India's got some great secular forces behind it, demographics, and a very pro-business government that is put in a lot of places. I think makes India really one of the best places for the next few decades beyond for the geopolitics. But, China has been out of favor, and you need something to change to really get the sentiment to shift. And if, could there be a positive surprise on deal making? That's going to be one of the key things I'm watching.
All right, let's go to the great rotation here. It got started in a big way last week. We've had a lot of false starts in this rotation. This IWM move finally clearing that 210 area, got a little bit overdone over 225, kind of pulling back in here. It's just one of like you see the false starts and then it just kind of comes back down again? Or do you think that the hopes of the 95% chance of an interest rate cut in September here, this is it, folks? This is the turn. This is the time to pile in the small caps.
I mean, it's been a decade-long move, multiple decade-long move of large caps being small caps. Now, you say, what's causing it? We've been trying to look under the hood in terms of the factors that have driven large caps, and certainly the narrative is all the Mag 7 is driving for sure. Like the tech companies are leading, and you say, well, why are they outperforming? Interestingly, the sales growth of the last decade for small caps have been on par with large caps, but you're definitely seeing multiples rise a lot more for large caps over small caps. So small caps have faced a lot of multiple compression, whereas large caps have been growing 4% a year, let's say, for the last decade on multiples. Now, what the narrative also has been small caps are the ones paying the higher rates from the Fed. They've got half their, Torsten Stocks out with a note this morning saying half of their debt is floating rate. So you have seen in our work, seeing their borrowing costs go up a lot more. And so they really do need the Fed to pivot and to start seeing those rates come down. Now, the earnings environment has been terrible for small caps. If you look at when we have an earnings monitor for small caps, they're declining year over year, double-digit numbers. A lot of the small cap indexes. So, now they're starting to report more large cap is reported, but they're surprising a little bit higher. But you really need to see them starting to grow. Now, as you get into next year, the Mag 7 starts slowing down, and some of these other ex Mag 7 or the other small cap index start to see their better earnings growth, for it to be lasting, you really do need to see the earnings start to perform better. But right now, it's trading on the Fed and the pivot, and we do think the Fed is pivoting. Now, maybe they don't cut as much as people actually think, and that'll be one of the things you're watching into next year. But the earnings have not been there, and we need to see that shape up more for that rally to be lasting.
So in terms of earnings, it is, we're getting back into the swing of things of earnings season. Some big companies set to report this week. With the kind of higher valuations that the big tech Mag 7s are trading at, how important are these earnings reports going to be, this quarter and maybe the next one as well?
Well, I've been saying that tech is not in a bubble. That a lot of people say, well, they're dramatically more expensive than everything else, and it's definitely true. 10 to 13 PE points higher than the X Mag 7, but their earnings growth are expected to be double, if around double the non Mag 7 over the next few years. So it's supported by faster earnings growth. Now, if they start to disappoint, that's when you can have a bigger correction. And so it'll be important that they keep delivering. They're expected to slow from some of their past growth rates. But if there's any real cracks, that's when you start to see a slowdown. But I think their higher multiples are justified by actually delivering the much better earnings growth than the rest of the market.
Before you change, I just want to take it back to the political situation here too. I mean, what we saw, we saw a big Trump pop, then we saw a Trump dump because he said they weren't going to, because he said he was lukewarm to basically protecting Taiwan. Are we back in this situation where tech stocks all of a sudden are Harris stocks and maybe not Trump stocks? Is a political situation, or can we not reach there yet?
Well, and I think some of the rotation will come on tax rates too. I think you say, well, why is the market going up today on this new news? And you say, well, in some ways, Trump's still the predicted market still say Trump is going to win, but maybe the House odds are actually going a little bit more. The odds of a divided, not having a sort of Republican sweep, those odds have actually gone down. Now the question is tax rates. You could think you need the Republicans have all three, the Senate and the House and the presidency, to get the corporate tax rates extended, and small caps, I think, need the tax rates more even than the large caps. Apple has Apple Ireland, where they get lower tax rates by keeping a lot of earnings abroad. The small caps are much more, they don't have all those gains of playing the international markets. And so on a relative basis, I do think the rotation is more important for X-Tech than tech on taxes. And so that'll be one of the key stories to watch is what do you think, because the Trump corporate tax cuts expire at the end of next year. And so that's what we have to be thinking about for some of those rotations.
Just because I'm seeing such a tech rally here today, and I kind of think, well, Biden dropping out is not the best news for Trump in the world, because I think the markets were pretty much saying Trump was going to beat Biden. Now you bring Harris in, and obviously, maybe it's not as easy of a path. I think Trump is still obviously leading in the polls. Nothing has changed too much, but it's not like he's going against somebody who's having trouble putting words together. I mean, Harris, ex-attorney here, like even to a debate, like people are saying, Harris going to win a debate, and I was like, maybe the case, but I just see such a rally here in tech this morning off this. It makes me start to think that, are we starting to get back, linking, that, and we sold off obviously last week with the Trump dump when he said they were lukewarm to protecting Taiwan, but maybe, that was just Trump just shooting off his mouth, and obviously maybe wasn't thinking about that before he said it when made the whole market dump. So that's just why I'm looking here and trying to figure out relationship wise, what's Trump stocks. We were doing this earlier too, Jeremy, before you came on the show. Which stocks are Trump stocks? Which stocks are Harris stocks? And maybe that's where my next question is: can we start figuring this out here, or is it too early to start figuring out which stocks are Trump stocks and which stocks are Harris stocks?
Well, there's going to always be these micro level stories, and we'll do our work to try to figure out which are the sectors too with you over time. I mean, I do think I tend to focus more on the macro than the micro of the individual stocks, and so I do think the small caps are part of it. That's tied to the Fed, tied to the tax rates. The international markets, the China story is going to be a big story that we're watching, as we talked about. And as the policies become clearer, we'll find some more angles. But I don't have another good example for you at the moment.
Is it time? Just you mentioned it at the top of the show. International. I mean, you've been pounding the table on Japan here for quite some time. With all the uncertainty that we have over here, I mean, the catch-up trade. I mean, we did talk about China, but Japan here, a little bit of a pullback last week. Also, you mentioned India, right? INDE. I mean, it's just is it just a time for that, just maybe just to take the foot off the throttle here and really focus abroad more for, until things are a little bit clearer here, maybe after the election or maybe early into next year?
Well, I do still like the sort of broader participation story in the US. I like that everybody's focused on AI, and I do think AI is a real technology. So I do think over time, more people will figure out how to benefit from it. It's not just going to be NVIDIA all the time. And so I do think you could stay in the US and get 13 times earnings. You don't have to go abroad to get some of those cheaper markets. The US small caps at 13 times for many of our baskets focused on dividends, quality dividends, are an interesting place to look. But if you do go overseas, I don't think it's everything. I mean, I do think Japan and India stand out as our two favorite countries. I'm not quite overweight Europe at the moment. We like Japan, we like India, and then you'll just see how these other, we'll be waiting for the trigger on China to see if that really does come to be some deal that's not quite as negative as I've been assuming so far.
All right, we've been on. Well, do you have one more, AB?
No, it's always good to
Okay.
catch up, Jeremy. If you have anything else you want to leave us with before we let you go, please do. Otherwise, thank you as always for hopping on with us.
No, thanks so much for having me.
All righty, guys, we've been on the line with Jeremy Schwartz, again, the CIO over there at WisdomTree. Always some great info and outlook coming from Jeremy. We've got about 10 minutes left here. Should we get into some earnings previews for the week?
Yeah, we can. I just want to finish up the commentary here, though, because I do believe that we are clearly seeing a tech rally here this morning because the Dems moved up a little bit here with this move. And I think if we're saying that tech is, Harris right now, I think the market's telling you that. So I think it's important stuff to know. Like, nothing's going to move stocks. We when we started the show, Joel, we were saying we're trying to separate it. What's going to move stocks the most in the next 3 to 4 months is the political situation. I really believe that. So now we got to start taking sides. Stocks are going to take sides. Well, since Trump's comments last week about Taiwan, that kind of changed everything. I don't think it's presumptuous to say that we had a sell-off last week in tech because of what Trump said in the Bloomberg interview. I don't think, AB, would you agree with me? I think it's pretty clear that tech sold off last week because of the Trump commentary. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you saw, I mean, obviously Taiwan Semi specifically sold off, and then,
Hammered.
NVIDIA
hammered on it.
Yeah.
And so now we get a snapback. Like you're looking this morning, you're seeing pretty significant rally here in all tech this morning. I think that's a lot to do with what happened over the weekend. I was anticipating, like we were talking about it, last, like I was talking about with a couple traders, like if Biden drops out this weekend, what's going to rally? And I was like, probably tech. And I mean, that's exactly what we're seeing here. So I just think it's very important as a trader. If you're a long-term investor, maybe you're not worrying about a lot of stuff, but long-term investing, political situation affects too, Joel. So, I mean, I just think politics just affects so much. So I know you guys don't want to talk politics, but some people that do. But if you're traders and you're coming here for trading ideas, you cannot ignore the political situation. It is the driver of today as well. The driver of today is Biden dropped out. That is the driver of today.
Beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Solar's up to TAN's up 2.63%. If you think that's just because of some, solar news, it's not. It's because First Solar's up 3%. We know clean energy is going to be Harris all the way. That's an obvious one. So the market's telling you here that, hey, maybe, Harris has a chance. That's all. And I'm not saying I ain't taking political sides. I don't even have a vote. I'm just sitting back, eating my popcorn, and figuring out how to trade. I'm Canadian. I can't even vote. But I'm just saying I have to know as a trader which stocks are affected by the polls and which side stocks are on. We know solar is clearly with Harris.
Yes, you got the solar stocks. But what other industries do you have that you could, very much say for certain this is either a Harris industry or a Trump industry? I would argue that potentially, with the clean energy stuff, I'd argue that, oil and gas probably would do better
Trump.
under a Trump presidency.
For sure.
Let's see, big tech. You're saying I honestly don't think for like the big tech, the big boys, that it matters that much. I don't think it's going to really matter for Apple who's in office.
I think in the long run it might not, but I think in the short run here, now you're worrying about the Taiwan situation if he gets in. So that's why. But clearly oil is down. You can say, well, why is oil down? You know why oil is down? Because Biden dropped out. That's why it's down. And maybe there is another headline.
Look what it did last week. Look what it did last week.
Yeah.
Yep. Look what it did. It had last week, and then I don't know. Maybe someone got the memo on Friday. You had the big down day on Friday, but that's definitely a sector. It's not the biggest sector in the market.
Move, though. In the political situation, politics are going to affect oil prices in a big way, in a very big way. So I think AB's got it right. Clean energy is obviously Harris. Dirty energy is obviously Trump. I think we need to keep this exercise going. And chat, you can help us out. This is why we do the show. So I get great ideas from the chat. Keep it going. What's a Trump stock? What's, a Harris stock? We need to have the lists, defined so that when we get, a bump up in one of them in the polls, we know which side to take. So I'm right now saying, and things could change, that tech stocks are with Harris right now. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. There are ones that could go either way. Solar isn't going to move from Harris. Oil isn't going to move from Trump. Some of them are going to bump back and forth. Right now, tech is more Harris. Tesla, which you would naturally think would be Harris because it's clean energy, gas consuming cars, is Trump because of what Musk is doing. So the situation's going to be always changing and be dynamic here. But we need to have a clear road. If we're going to trade for the next 5 months and make money trading on headlines,
it's going to be crazy.
We got to know which stocks are on which team. I'm telling you,
it is going to be. Just look what's happened in the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's like a movie. You couldn't even make a movie up like this of what's going on in the political situation. But I'll say, tech stocks, tech stocks are good on Trump. Tech stocks are good under anybody.
Tech stocks are just good usually.
We saw that. We saw how tech stocks performed while Trump was in office, and they did, let's just say, just all right. All right, before we move on from the politics to the earnings this week, I just wanted to pull up. Now the hottest prediction market is going to be the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats right now, Josh Shapiro. I believe the governor of Pennsylvania is.
Yes, that's correct. Josh Shapiro. He's at a 28% probability. Also, the North Carolina governor, I believe it's Ron Kelly. There's been some clamoring for Gretchen Whitmer, who's the governor of the state of Michigan. I just don't know if like an all female ticket is going to be. That would really flip that down, especially with what you have going on, with Roe versus Wade being overturned. So, man, there are so many different implications to that VP presidential candidate. We'll see which way. We'll see which way our country is going to go and who's going to lead it. If anything, I think everything that's going on, I just want to see the biggest turnout. Just everyone, just get out. I don't even care who you vote for, but let's get out there, man. Let's get out there and let's vote and let's express our opinions because our country's never been more divided. Things are happening to make it more divided. And
Yeah.
I don't know who's that person. We got to come in. I mean, there's like, you just can't be like, on the political spectrum. You can't keep going out, 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 out like this. There has to be a point. And I've been saying this for 8 years, and Lisa says you've been wrong for 8 years. But there's going to be some kind of equalizing effect. I don't know who or when it's going to be. If it's going to be this election, next election, or never. But really important part, and we are just getting started. I mean, it's July 22nd. I mean, holy moly! I'm gonna need
yeah.
some more vacations. Of
It's
this,
gonna
but
be it's gonna be a crazy few months. But all right, let's get
It's
to
gonna be a
earnings
crazy
real
week. 2 earnings are coming this week.
Earnings this week. I don't have the. I believe we're still getting ready to put out our Benzinga calendar, but you can find that on our Twitter, benzinga.com. On Twitter, we put out a good earnings graphic each week, as well
Yeah.
as we got the economic data on there as well. But this week, some big names, some highlights just to run through real quick. We have Google, which is set to report. I don't have the days in front of me, Dennis. I have the companies that reports. If you want to help me out
Okay,
on which
so
days they come.
I can go through here. So tonight, the major report. We had Verizon this morning. Verizon's down $1.50. I don't know if people care that much. We can cover it if you want, but it's it's getting hit pretty good. AT&T and Verizon just haven't been loved for a very long time. Tonight we get Nucor, NXPI, Logitech, probably the main ones. Tuesday we're getting some guns. Tesla Tuesday night. Google Tuesday night. We also get General Electric, Visa, Texas Instruments, Spotify, UPS, and Coca-Cola. Wednesday highlights Chipotle, IBM, ServiceNow, Qualcomm, Ford, General Dynamics, AT&T, Las Vegas Sands. Thursday is a huge day. We get Amazon, Roku. We get AbbVie. Well, actually, it's Amazon. It's huge. RCL, Honeywell, American Airlines, LUV, so a couple airlines. And Friday's quiet with Bristol Myers and 3M. But wow, I mean, we're starting to
big
get
week.
we're going to get a couple guns. 3 of them. Tesla, Google Tuesday, Amazon Thursday. It's going to be market impactful. I think if we're previewing Tesla, I'm still of the opinion that the earnings don't matter as much as, commentary about, if there's any commentary about what's happening with the robotaxi event. We know we ran up on that. He's never really commented, Musk, on, is it officially out to October? What's happening there? Is there any, updates there? Google's going to matter for Meta. Remember, Google's going to be the first one to report here. It's going to move as well. The bar is higher for Google than it is for Tesla, I think. Because I think you got underneath demand for Tesla. Even if they miss it, it'll be like, well, there's other things coming. Just like we saw the dip in the robotaxi event. People bought that dip. I do think there's underneath demand for Tesla. Amazon, still long Amazon, long-term portfolio, not planning on selling it ever. It's pulled back significantly. Maybe we should stop at that one, Joel, and just do a technical here, because we had a quiet 10% sell-off in Amazon last week and a half, and that is significant. The Bezos wall of 200, and it is a wall, and it does matter. It's why we follow SEC filings, because you know what? You get a whale of a seller there. That is the Bezos top. You can call the Amazon 200 the Bezos top, because he was selling every single day up there. Now he's not selling anymore, but it gets back up there. He's probably back selling again. You can see what level Bezos. So you have a ceiling on the stock right now. Question is, can they break through the ceiling on a great earnings report? I don't know. That's a long ways away now. But Amazon is interesting, Joel.
Yeah, and we got the Bezos top, and then always on something like this, you look for that's the biggest sizable down move you've had at Amazon. Now you look like, hey, we got this 180 low. So what the bulls are going to be looking for is like, hey, we're still the same Amazon. We're going back to all-time highs. Who cares about Bezos selling? We'll work our way up back half of this move, 190, 191. Also have a daily high in that area. Longer it takes to get back up and get back half of this move, and more of a chance that you take out this 180 and perhaps test the 175 level. But it's so funny, the narrative changes. Like, well, now we're talking politics. We're all out AI or Tesla or whatever. What is the state of AI? Right? That's what we're going to find out this week. Is it the money-making godsend that has been priced into these stocks? Are we just a little bit too far ahead on where it's at? Where's Gemini? I mean, these companies are going to have to come out and say, yeah, we're spending a lot of money on this, and here are the returns. We are already seeing positive returns. If not, then that's, a lot of, and I think you're seeing skepticism here going into the report along with the other political factors. So like, hey, maybe the AI story got a little bit ahead of itself, little cooling off ahead period. Yep. And get an update.
Well, we don't even have to wait for Tuesday. Tonight we're going to get NXPI. So if you're interested in the AI story here, NXPI is going to be directly affected by that, I would think. So let's see how NXPI does. Week going into the report, again, tech sold off last week. A little bit of the Trump commentary about Taiwan was catalyst there. But, quiet little 30-point sell-off here, bouncing a little bit here this morning ahead of tonight's report. But NXPI is going to be a big one.
Well, all right. That brings us to 9:01 a.m. Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to leave us with this morning, or should we wrap there and get back to it 8 a.m. tomorrow?
I think my final thoughts are just, I find it interesting, last night's action where they're buying the hell out of DJT, and they were buying and they were actually selling the chips a little bit last night. Believe it or not, NVIDIA was down last night on Robinhood, Joel, and then it turned around and started to buy. But Taiwan Semiconductor, and there is another headline here that's driving Taiwan Semiconductor. It is in the red. So this isn't just, they came out, and I believe it was a headline from NVIDIA about a competing chip. So if you're wondering why Taiwan Semiconductor is going down, I didn't read the story. How I'm a headline trader. I just read the headlines. But there was a headline last night that NVIDIA is preparing a version. This was from Reuters. NVIDIA is preparing a version of a new flagship AI chip for the Chinese market. So I think that's hit Taiwan Semiconductor a little bit here as well. There could be another headline on TSM, but it is one chip, that one of the only ones that is trading down here today.
I think a big day for the bulls here. I mean, you had the Friday low, the low for the week, the 200 handle, well, not quite a 200 handle sell-off. Big news over the weekend. You get a bounce here. And I'm not even saying like we need to close over 5,600 in the S&P, which would be a really good thing. But I'm just like, hold in here, like hold into the green, because there's a lot of people that did buy the, got a little bit smoked on Wednesday, a little bit smoked on Thursday, averaged down on Friday. This is a relief pop, right? No major fundamentals have come out. So a big day for the bulls. If they can maintain the bid here, protect Friday's low, then we mosey back over 5,600. So the bulls are fighting back, and let's see if they can maintain it for the entire session.
The Bulls versus the Bears. We will see today. Tomorrow will be a T3 Tuesday. I'm not sure exactly who they're sending over, but it should be a good segment. As always,
Awesome.
From T3, they're always sending us some good guests on Tuesdays. So you guys make sure you guys know where to go tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. for all of your market needs. And maybe some politics too sprinkled in. I mean, we're that time of the year, the next few months, we'll try to keep it at bay, maybe 5-10 minutes at most, but only when it's market moving. That's the only times we're going to cross over into politics, and it will be market moving what's going on in this 2024 presidential election. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. Live trading will be starting up right after this. We will see you guys tomorrow morning.